Okay, so apparently my last video, the end of it got cut off. I somehow deleted it. So I'm rolling out the last piece for my end pieces here. And I wanted to show you guys a little bit of rolling texture onto the clay before you cut out your squares. So I'm going to start with this, and I got a different rolling pin, a giant cup, because I was over the can. So we'll see how this works out for us. And I can do a bigger, wider piece this way too, so that's pretty nice actually. So think about that, guys. The can is really difficult actually. Who would have thought? All right, so I roll out my last piece of clay, and now I can do my pieces here. Make sure the edges are on the page. But I wanted to show you guys what it would look like. So if you want to roll a texture, like I've got this little candle holder here that I was going to roll some texture on, and you want to roll it before you cut out your piece. And this is why. Because when I roll out the slab here, I can then put this on here and cut it out exactly how I want it, and it's going to be gorgeous. Remember to use a straight edge when you're cutting, so I can cut this out. And then it's beautiful and exactly how I want it. But I want to show you guys, I don't need that little piece anyway. So I wanted to show you guys if I were to cut it out first. So say I cut it out, and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I found this texture in the living room, and I just loved it. And now I want to put it on my box, but I've already got my pieces cut out. You can still add the texture. It's just easier to add the texture before you cut out the pieces. And this is why. Because it's just going to take an extra step. So essentially, like, I've got my piece here, and okay, I want to do my texture. I found it. Or maybe I want to do, yeah, my texture. Okay, so then I'm going to roll my texture onto it. But now, and I didn't actually press very hard, but it is not the same shape, like it's smooshed and moved. So it's not a huge deal, but then you're going to have to go back and kind of trim up the edges a little bit. So just something to think about. That if you want to roll texture, it's better to roll the texture before you cut out your piece, and then you're just doing 2 steps extra if you do it that way. So I actually have these already cut out and put in my bag. So I'll wrap them in this paper towel and then leave them for a day. I have left these for a little bit. Let's just check them real quick. So this top one actually has tons of moisture on it, which is interesting. I think it's because my garage is really cold right now. So you can just kind of pat some of that extra moisture away if it does that for you guys. Because we actually were trying to dry out the clay a little bit. So mine's actually still about the same as that it was. So just wrap each piece up, stack it nice and neat. You can stack them on top of each other. It shouldn't hurt it too much, like the texture and whatnot. So just stack that up and put it in your bag. And then we'll come back to it in a day or so, depending. And that is how you cut out your pieces. And you can take all these extra pieces and wad them all together. And I would just keep them in your bag, but kind of put them to the side, because we'll use them at the end if we need to. And I would always keep your template pieces too, just in case something happens. Maybe you trim one off too much when we start putting it together, or something happens and, you know, your cat jumped on it and now there's a giant paw print in there. And you need to make a new one. So always keep those, because then you just don't have to make an extra one later. Otherwise, I will see you next time.